Vuorinen with the Elora Singers. We're really looking forward to the release of our new album, This Love Between Us, at the end of May. Last week, I spoke with featured composer Reena Esmail from her home in Los Angeles about her work. And in part 2 of our conversation, we discussed the difficult job of finding texts for a new piece, and for us, the choir, the challenges of singing them.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the texts that you chose for this piece? They come from a number of different religious and spiritual traditions. They carry a similar message, perhaps, but how did you find them? How did you decide to sort of set, each movement coming from a different spiritual tradition?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, finding the texts for this piece was maybe one of the hardest things I've ever done as a composer.
Right.
Because, I mean, honestly, my job is to write music. I have 4 degrees in writing music. So, at some point you know what to do. But I have never been a researcher. I've never been, I've never had training in like literary things. And so really, when I started writing this piece in August 2016, I was thinking maybe I'd do something with darkness and light. Maybe I knew I needed to do something religious because it was the Institute of Sacred Music at Yale that had commissioned me. So of course it needed to have that bent, but I didn't really know what else I wanted to do. And I thought I'd write a piece that just had a lot of color to it. And then as things kind of started going awry, I said to myself, I am someone who, is being given the opportunity to really say something here. A lot of people are going to hear this. A lot of people are going to be involved in the production process of it and the musical creation of it. And I don't want to softball it. I don't want to say things that are just, there's a place for just pure beauty, but I think I realized that was not what this piece was going to be about. Mm-hmm. And so I thought to myself, whatever religion you believe in, there's really got to be some place in that religion where it tells you to be good to other people, that it has some sense of morality to your fellow person.
Right.
And so I thought about, kind of the biggest religious traditions in India, because of course that's my specialty is, between Indian and Western culture. So found these religions and then had to go through and find places where it talked about unity. And I mean, it would be one thing if all these texts were in English, but some of these texts are in languages that don't even exist anymore, in scripts that I can't read.
Right.
And so, I mean, yeah, so it's like for me, the musical elements are like, okay, I know how to put those together, but the textual elements, I mean, there were times where I had to go through like a friend's mother who had a guru who knew a translator. And there was one time where I was was in New York having a conversation with someone who was in Israel talking about a thing that was in Persian culture, like Zoroastrian, wow. That middle movement.
Right,
and so
right.
I was like, sometimes I would just stop and say to myself in sentences, this is what my life is right now. I'm so many degrees into this, because it's like you can't Google things if they're not in English script, right? So but then the thing is, it was amazing what I found, and it was amazing that that thesis that there is a place in each religious tradition where it talks about being good to each other, that was really true. And I really did find so many surprising and interesting ways that each religion really prescribes that brotherhood, or I guess, is there a gender non-conforming version
right.
of that? Personhood. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And as we prepared this, the language became something that we had to really work at and study, and because these were all new sounds, and you had done a really excellent sort of tutorial online that we all studied very studiously before we came together, and so that was really helpful. But I found that the languages were actually very musical languages to sing in as well. I mean, as we listen to the recording now, they seem to just kind of come off the tongue very easily, even if the singers were working really hard to get the sounds out. But it's a very poetic and very musical sound in each movement, I think.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that is maybe to my advantage there is that while I don't have much Western vocal training, like I've sung in choirs, but I've never had real Western vocal training. I have had Indian vocal training.
Right,
and so
right.
I do know how languages that have certain sounds in them, because I mean, certainly they're different from each other in a variety of ways, but they also do have many things in common. And so I was able to really understand how those languages would set to music and what kinds of music would work with them and things like that. So in an odd way, I mean, It's interesting because I have a commission coming up in a couple of years for a piece for just a art song, and they asked for an art song in a European language like French or Italian.
Right.
And I mean, while I can do that, it's much harder for me because I don't know how those languages set the way that I know how Hindi sets,
Right, right, right,
So
right.
yeah, and I mean, of course, it's really interesting to make audio guides because, on one hand, yes, there's so many sounds that are really new, like retroflex T's and like aspirated H's and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. But at the same time, I think our idea of a score needs to start incorporating things that are oral because we have the ability to do that people 100 years ago just didn't. And I think for cultures, especially where things are orally transmitted, you need to have the instruction manual be more than just a physical thing that you read and something that you can actually hear.
Well, thank you, Reena, for taking time out of your busy days, your schedule. I know we're all kind of in this together here, and so I appreciate you taking some time with me this afternoon to enlighten us a little bit. We're really, really excited about our recording coming out. It's in the hands of the manufacturer now as we speak together, and so in a couple of weeks it'll be ready to go and up on Spotify and iTunes and all the places where you find music. I really am grateful that we've had this opportunity to come to know your music, to perform it, and for this afternoon to have this conversation with you. It's just been wonderful.